Now, here's what Roles and Goals is. It is brilliant. And it is, I believe, one of the reasons we still have money, ladies and gentlemen. Because it is outcome measures. When we used to talk to the legislature, all we could tell them was, we serve 20,000 adults. So what? You know, what difference did it make? We can actually say to them, we can aggregate the data you give us to show them how learners met goals that they set for themselves, because we're learner-centered. So in the 2013-14 fiscal year, we know that of those who set the goal to share a book with their child, 73% were able to do that. See how much difference that makes than just saying we serve 20,000 adults? 61% were able to complete a job application and 59% wrote a resume. 49% interviewed for a job. 40% were able to vote. You don't think that gets somebody's attention? So my point is this: we aggregate this statewide and share it with the legislature. You can aggregate it locally and share it with your local stakeholders so that they can see the results of your work. It's not just that we serve 20,000 adults with 15,000 tutors. It's that we changed people's lives and can show you how their lives were changed. And that's what Roles and Goals is about. So importantly to know is what we do not ask you to do is sit down and ask any learner to read this and fill it out. This was initially when we started talking about this, people thought, my learners can't read that. No, this is about having a conversation when the learner comes in. You don't even have to show them the form. I don't care if they see the form. You just keep your notes on it, right? You're having a conversation with them about, so what brings you here? What are your literacy goals? What would help you in your life? They may have already told you because that's why they came in the door. I need to take a commercial driver's test, right? But you can ask them, well, what else? How about in your family life? Is there anything where new literacy skills would help you? Well, I wish I could read to my child, okay? So you're just keeping track of that as you interview the students. And every library does this differently. We collect the data from you once a year, but almost every library checks in at least one time, and many check in every 3 months. So this is up to you. You're going to check with the tutor and learner, how's it going? Have they met any of the goals that they set for themselves? And if yes, then you have a set and a met goal, right? And you say, is there anything else you'd like to do? Because by then they've gotten more ideas. You've taken them to a voting workshop, or you've included them in an adult learner book club, or it's voting time, and they begin to see that there's a whole world of things out there they could do if they could just read better. So you set new goals once the goals have been achieved. And at the end of the year, you just take a snapshot in time, and you tell us how many learners set a goal, what were the goals that were set, how many learners met a goal, what were the goals that were met. And we're not asking you who they are. We're not defining if they met a goal. You're defining. Can they read a book to their child now and they couldn't before? Do you see what I'm saying? So it's not perfection, but it's the closest thing. As a matter of fact, last year I applied for the Library of Congress American Literacy Prize, and although we didn't get it, but we should have, they invited me there because they wanted to learn more about roles and goals. That's what caught their attention, and they did a whole spiel about it, wrote it up, and did this whole thing because they haven't seen this kind of thing in a large program like ours. So that's why this is important. This is not only to help you know that you've done good work, it's to help you share it with your stakeholders, gain more support for the program financially or, just community-wise, the decision makers in the library and in the city and county. So talk about how you handle the roles and goals process.
So we also emphasize that it's a conversation. It's not a form that you ever want to sit down with your student and go, so what are we going to work on today? It's overwhelming and it's not useful for the learner to deal with that. So, a conversation on when they come in and a conversation with their tutor. When a new tutor pair is matched, I sit down with them and we talk about what they'd like to work on and what brought them in and what some of their goals are. And then part of that monthly tutor report is also are there any new goals that they set? Have they met anything? And then once a year we browbeat them to submit another roles and goals form. And typically what happens is it ends up being a telephone conversation where we talk to the tutor and say, all right, we really, really, really need this. That state library, the forms, government. That's how we get that information.
Yeah, good. Happy to be of service.
Yep. Thanks, Carla.
Anytime.
Question.
I have a question. when does a person stop becoming an English learner? In our program, they have to be an intermediate or advanced student to attend the literacy program, which of course is reading and writing.
They have to be able to speak and be taught in English. So if they're learning to speak English, they're not an adult learner by our standards. If you're teaching them to read and write in English, then you can count them as an adult learner.
And just to follow up on that, I think most of us probably do a small kind of assessment of English speaking skills even before they come through orientation or whatever, and so that we can refer them immediately, that they don't waste their time, that we can refer them immediately to an ESL program. Yep.
I think the important thing is to think about what does the learner need? Not what do we need, but what's the most beneficial place for the learner to be right now?
Back to the roles and goals, I think that roles and goals focus needs to start right from the very beginning, from the tutors, right from their orientation, learners right from their orientation, so that everybody's on the same page that roles and goals is a priority for our programs. Besides browbeating and finger smashing and all the things that we have to do to get the reports in, our learners write in their initial applications or their initial interviews, they tell us what it is that they really want to do with their new skills. And for us, we take that information and we input it into the computer so we have the baseline right from the start. We also ask the tutors that by their third session, they fill out not the scary looking roles and goals sheet that we have, but that other nice one that's in quadrants, because it's not so scary for anybody. So that quadrant thing, it's got cute little pictures on it and stuff. And our learners respond to that, and it's more free-flowing. So that really initiates the conversation a little bit better. To get to the roles and goals reports at the end of the year, it takes finger stomping. It does.
And it can be scary, like everybody has said. If you just take the form and you hand it to a tutor, it's a great form. It's something that we do fill out. But again, I agree with everyone else. It needs to be a conversation, because if you just hand that to a tutor, even though you've told them in tutor training, even though you've talked to them personally, even though you've discussed this, they will go in invariably and say, check, 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 they can already do these things. And that's not what we're after. Or they want to do this, but it's 3 years down the road. So you want to be sure that it's, during that year, the next 6 months, but concentrate on what is it you want to do. And what Cheryl's talking about, that quadrant that we use the same sort of thing. What is it you want to do? Read to your child, and then you can go and fill out the form. You can have a volunteer do that. You can use it as your baseline. But handing it to someone, and the learners will look at it and think, oh my gosh, there are 7 things on there. I need to do all 7 of those things
Tomorrow.
in every area, and by next week. And number one, they might not have that as an interest. They might not be working at this point. Whatever it is, that's not going to be realistic for them, but they think that they need to be doing that because it's on that form. So if you don't use that with them, but rather you just have those conversations, then you can take that information, as Carla mentioned, you're just taking notes. You know what the form is, you know what they want to do. There are blank places, okay? They want to do online banking, write it in. That's what you can, and that's how we use the form, and that's what I see is really a success story, and then you can aggregate that information. But you just have a conversation and use those roles and goals. What do you want to be able to do? Well, I just want to, I want to read. Okay, but let's bring it down to something that you want to be able to read, and so you can start to narrow it down so that they can attain a goal. Because when you go back, you want them to know that they're making progress. Maybe they're not 100% where they want to be, but they are making progress, or it doesn't matter anymore. And if you give them the form and it's checked off, they think maybe they have to do it. What if they've changed their mind? If you just have those conversations, you know that maybe that's not applicable anymore. They didn't even mention it, so it's no longer important. We're not going to do that for this particular reporting period. Maybe we'll plan it forward to the next one down the road.
I think that's also a good point to bring up, that SMART goals are really important here. And if you talk about, I want to learn to read, is that really a SMART goal? Probably not. and making the learners and the tutors really understand how to get to that SMART goal concept. And if you don't know what SMART goals is, that's a whole different conversation.
I would tell you, too, that the things that you see on the roles and goals form were also developed by the field, who told us we asked them, everybody to send us what are the most commonly set goals in your program. So that's where those came from. Dottie?
Do you give copies of the forms to the tutors so that they're aware of the goals that the learner's working on so that they can, update it that way, or do you not do that?
I personally have a file, one of those A to Z files, and we put those in there, and I keep them that way. I don't give them to the tutors at this point. I have in the past, and it's just caused me so much more confusion that I keep them, and then when we have conversations or when I pull information, the progress and things off of their quarterly reports, then I can refer to that. If there's a big difference, I pull the form and I talk to the tutor personally, or we have a mentoring group and they will talk to the tutor as well. But I don't give it to them to keep at this point in time. I've tried it and it didn't work for us as well.
But do you show it to them during your tutor training?
Yes, absolutely.
So they understand. Again, remembering that we want them to teach to the learner's goals, not just to teach whatever they think.
We actually do distribute it to the tutors, and we ask the tutors to be our mechanism to get that information. We keep a copy of it, and then at the annual reporting, we send the previous roles and goals form to the tutor and say, this is what last year looked like. Can you update it for us?
Do you include roles and goals in your monthly tutor report that they would have to indicate progress that they're making, goals met, new goals set, that sort of thing?
Yes. His question was, do we include this in the monthly and quarterly reports? Absolutely, to set progress and let us know what's going on.
Yeah,
I think we all do that.
Yeah, we have it on our monthly form as well. Tell us what progress you've made towards your goals.
So it isn't all just part of conversation. It's an actual reported item, part of it.
It's reported, but it's not a formal part. The roles and goals form isn't part of the monthly tutor report, but there's a form on there that says, what progress have you made towards goals and things like that.
Right.
That's often left blank.
So we do have conversations in the beginning, but we do track it on the forms, and we make sure that the tutors, as Cheryl said, we also give it to them in tutor training. We make sure that they see that and that they're making progress towards those goals. And as I mentioned, if I see making progress towards this, but it wasn't on a goal and I'd never seen it before, I will have a conversation with the tutor and or the learner to find out what's going on. We need to adjust that goal sheet so we have the proper roles and goals.
As a newer coordinator, every time a learner changes roles and goals, do you kind of count them as a different learner?
No, it's same, yeah.
No.
Same
No,
learner.
it's the same learner, and they could have 10 different goals that they want
Right.
to do at the same time. Or they could have 2 or 1. But yeah, all of those goals belong to that same learner.